Hey there, it's me Eden. Welcome to Crossdressing Adventure Stories. Today I'm going to share with you cross-dressing adventure stories called Office Colleague Caught Me in Airport, Part 11. So, if you're new to the channel, then please consider subscribing and be a part of our inclusive community. In the weeks after the trip to the USA, Martina thought a lot about whether she should actually start converting to a woman. But she still had doubts as to whether she really felt like a woman in the wrong body or whether she was just looking for a woman. Now the official divorce date at the family court was coming up and Martina was thinking about how she should appear there. Her estranged wife only knew Martin and knew nothing about Martina's female side, which was secretly lived out in the past and is now openly lived out. Martina opted for a pantsuit, a light blue blouse and flat shoes. Of course she put on makeup, but held back very much. Astrid had been with her that night and looked at Martina. "Honey, so much man hasn't seemed through for weeks. You can put on some more intensive makeup and you still have to put on your sillis." Martina looked in the mirror and clearly saw her feminine self. "I think I'm wearing too much makeup for the court date. And I deliberately left out the breasts, after all Martin is expected there. I think I attract enough attention with the things in the women's department," Martina replied. Astrid tried to convince her to finally let Martin be history, but was unsuccessful. Martina was at court half an hour before her appointment. She waited in the entrance hall. Her estranged wife almost ran past her. Only at the last moment did she recognize Martina. "So, what do you look like? Are you wearing makeup?" Martina's wife immediately showed her displeasure with Martina's appearance without greeting her properly. "Good morning, Sarah. Yes, I am fine, too. And yes, I have makeup on. But you don't have to be interested in that anymore," Martina greeted her wife. Just before they were invited in to see the judge, Astrid came. Martina had actually asked her not to come to court, but Astrid had a mind of her own. First she kissed Martina in love, then she turned to Sarah. "Good morning, we don't know each other yet. I'm Astrid Camp." She gave Sarah her hand in greeting, who reluctantly accepted the gesture. "So you already have a new one?" Sarah commented sarcastically. "What do you want? We have been separated for over a year and Astrid and I have only become closer in the last few weeks. That's all you need to know." Martina finishes the topic. Sarah turned to Astrid again. "And you think it's nice that he's getting ready like that, don't you?" Again, Sarah's tone was testy and provocative. Astrid smiled. "No, half-heartedly I consider it a waste." Sarah hadn't expected this answer and couldn't reply. Then the door opened and Sarah and Martina were called in. Astrid was waiting outside. Half an hour later they came out again. "Now it is final. I'm happily divorced." When Martina said that, Sarah grimaced, which made Astrid laugh. That in turn really upset Sarah. Astrid kissed Martina and then they walked out of the building hand in hand. "You shouldn't come here, darling," Martina began. "Hey, I just wanted to see your ex. I also wanted to see how she reacts to your outfit. Bit uptight, the good one, isn't it?" Astrid made fun of Sarah. Martina just nodded. She didn't want to talk about her ex-wife anymore. Since both had taken the day off, they strolled through the city. In love, they held hands and kissed unashamedly. At some point, while they were both standing in the dressing room together at H&M and each trying on a dress, Astrid pulled Martina's silicone breast prostheses out of her huge purse. "You should put them on now, otherwise the dress won't fit properly from the front," laughed Astrid and gave Martina her fake breasts. Shaking her head, Martina stuck the two silicone imitations in the right places. Astrid examined her friend and said, "Bought it, it looks stunning on you, sweetheart." The two looked for a restaurant for lunch and Martina felt like a woman again. The little bit of Martin that she still had to show in the morning had completely disappeared again. They chatted about clothes, shoes and cosmetics until a message caught Martina's attention. "Hello, darlings. I am in Hanover for the rest of this week. Do you have time to meet? Love, Eric." Martina's heart immediately beat faster. Astrid noticed with some jealousy the shine in Martina's eyes and also her slightly dreamy look. "What is it?" she asked, a bit snippy. "Eric is here and wants to meet me," Martina replied cheerfully. Astrid was visibly jealous, but Martina didn't notice. She told him immediately that she was happy and would like to meet him. Ignoring Astrid's reaction, she fell in love with Eric until his next message brought Martina back to reality. He asked if he could also get to know Astrid personally. When he met Martina in Helsinki back then, Astrid had always given her tasks and Eric had helped Martina to carry them out. But Martina didn't want to introduce him to Astrid. On the one hand, Eric was her lover, on the other hand, Martina was also afraid that Astrid might turn away from her. She looked her lover in the eyes and now realized that Astrid was also quite upset. "What's the matter, sweetheart?" Martina asked. "I don't want you to meet him. You're mine," Astrid started. Martina interrupted her, "Honey, I'm with you, but I'm not yours. And I love you, Eric won't change that either. But you know he's also someone very special to me. He also wants to meet up with both of us, he only knows you from the messages. And I'm even more afraid that you could choose a real man again and then I'll be alone." A tear ran from her right eye, which Astrid immediately tenderly wiped away. "Martina, sweetie. You don't have to be afraid. I never want a, like you said, real man again. You are the perfect partner for me, beautiful as a woman and in bed with just the right amount of masculinity. Because even there you are much more feminine than I have experienced with many other women. I do not need a man. But I'm afraid you're going to turn away from me because of this man." Martina shook her head vigorously. "Now don't pretend. You were just in the middle of a daydream when Eric wrote to you. That made me jealous. I just don't want to lose you," Astrid continued. Martina grabbed her hand. "Sorry, Astrid. I love you and I'm so happy with you. But you also know that the night with Eric fascinated me back then. I never thought I could give myself to a man like that. And somehow I want to experience that again. But that doesn't mean that I only want to have sex with men, quite the opposite. I fell in love with you with skin and hair. Feeling your closeness and touching your skin is simply the indescribable greatest thing in this world. I love you more than anything." Astrid now had tears in her eyes and only nodded very gently. "Then ask him if he's free tonight." Astrid conceded. Martina squeezed her hand, smiled at her lovingly and answered Eric. Now Astrid had tears in her eyes and only nodded very gently. He was very happy and immediately agreed to come in the evening. Martina suggested picking him up from his hotel, which he happily accepted. In the evening, Astrid and Martina got ready to go out. Both chose short dresses and high-heeled sandals. Astrid forbade Martina to wear anything underneath. "If you want to get him in your bed again with my consent, you'll have to play by my rules," she said. Martina sighed, because she suspected that her masculinity could not be hidden when she saw Eric. On the other hand, she knew that Astrid always got very nervous when Martina wasn't wearing anything under her dress, so she agreed. Astrid herself had only put on an extremely tight thong. Extremely tight thong. Well, you can also omit that, my darling, Martina replied when she saw it. Astrid grinned and took off the bit of cloth. Then they set off. Astrid parked very close to the hotel and they went to the lobby to pick up Eric. He was already sitting in one of the heavy leather armchairs in a group of seats next to the entrance. Martina saw him and beamed all over her face. He came towards her, took her in his arms and kissed her passionately. Astrid tried not to let it show, but seeing that kiss and how her lover reacted to it made it difficult for her. Still, she tried to remain friendly when Eric greeted her. He took her hand and pulled her into his arms as well. I know, you are Martina's girlfriend, but I hope you will not be that jealous. He whispered to her, you will be part of all, if you like to. Then he also kissed Astrid tenderly on the mouth. That light kiss hit her like lightning. Astrid fell for him immediately and knew why Martina wanted to see him again. She hoped that the evening would end for all three together in one bed and that Eric would make her happy too. Then the three set out to have dinner together. Even as they ate, their conversation was full of lewd remarks. Martina noticed how excited she was and how her dress lifted. She tried to hide something, which thoroughly failed. Eric and Astrid now really had the fun of pointing out Martina's little circus tent in the crotch and keeping their excitement high. Every time the waiter came to pour more wine, Astrid and Eric made sure that his eyes fell on Martina's excitement. At some point Martina had to go to the toilet after all. Whoa, you're trying to cover something, whispered Astrid to her. Martina swallowed, but she couldn't discuss and waited long. So she made her way through the rows of tables. She received a few astonished looks from the other guests, but she stretched a bit and proudly walked towards the toilets. On the way back she had the feeling that all the guests in the restaurant suddenly looked at her. She squared her shoulders again and walked back to her table, tall and smiling. At every table she passed, she heard whispers and was amused by them. Now that her arousal had subsided, almost nothing bulged under the dress. Only if you paid close attention and Martina stood still, could you still see a small bump in her crotch. She sat down again and looked into two disappointed faces. Why aren't you horny anymore? I would love to see the faces of all the people around when you pass by. Eric began. Astrid also pouted a little. It's a shame, it would have been perfect if you had come back with a heart-on. Martina laughed and shook her head. I know that you would like it, but I wouldn't wait until I was again horny like before. Martina looked around the restaurant again and caught the eye of an older lady who shook her head, uncomprehendingly when she saw Martina's gaze. A young man nearby gave a furtive thumbs up to show her how much he loved it. After the meal, the three made their way through the city center. Eric wanted to go out for a drink, so they went to a bar in the old town. 2 cocktails later, Martina and Astrid were so aroused that they would have liked to FUD Eric directly in the bar. But they held back, only showing publicly who is with whom. Around 10:30 p.m. Astrid asked if they wanted to go for a walk. She winked meaningfully at Martina, but she didn't understand. Eric paid immediately and hooked both women's arms. So off they went, apparently aimlessly. But Astrid cleverly led them to the Mash Park behind the new town hall. She stopped on a small bridge overlooking City Hall. That's all for now. See you in the next video, till then take care. Oh yes, please like and subscribe to my channel. And also share your feedback, it really means a lot to me.